Hi, this is Chris from quiltfabric.com, and I am going to show you how to put your borders on so that they're flat, and I'm going to show you how to miter borders because it's really not that difficult, and I came up with my own special little easy trick. Okay, so first of all, I need to put borders on this quilt that I made. This is one of our strip quilts. It's really easy. It's called Diced Chocolate, and it needs some borders, and I don't really like putting on borders, but I have to, so I have found easy ways to do it. So, first thing you need to know is that you're going to put the side borders on first because they're the longest. And then after those borders get on, your top and bottom border have to go across the border, the quilt, and the other border. So, it works better to put the long sides on first. And if you don't, you can run out of fabric. Ask me how I know. So, this basic method I learned from Beth Ferrier about how to get your borders to be flat. So the first thing you would do if you weren't going to miter is you would take your borders, and I have two together right now. I have an inner border and an outer border, but you just take your border, put it across the middle of your quilt, line the ends up there, put the end down there, and then you just cut it off even with your quilt. And I've done two of them at once here, and then what I do is I fold the border in half and crease it, fold it in half again and crease it so I have quarters, and then I do the same thing with the quilt. Fold it in half, it's going to be here, and in quarters it's going to be about here and here, and then when I put the borders on, I line up the ends, the middle, and the quarter and 3/4 and ease in anything that needs to be eased in. And if you do that, because you've got two pieces the same and you're putting them on either side, they will make your quilt be flat, and then when you put the second set on the top and the bottom, you'll have a nice square frame, and your quilt will be flat no matter what kind of wavy garbage is going on in here. Ask me how I know. So I have to put borders on this, and I happen to know that one side of the quilt is 1 inch longer than the other because there is a lot of bias stuff going on in here. And so by cutting my two borders the same length, it's going to make it square and flat. But I decided with some of my students that this quilt would look better with an inner border. So as much as I don't like putting borders on, I sure as heck don't want to have to put two sides on, two tops for the inner border, and then two sides and two tops for the outer border. So the only two times that you really need to miter, or that mitering pays off, I guess, is if you're doing multiple borders or if you've got some kind of floral or other border print that needs to be mitered. Other than that, you don't need to bother. So you sew your inner border to your outer border ahead of time, and I've already done that. So now I'm going to measure the and your inner border doesn't need to be as long as your outer border. It's hard to say, because when I cut it, it's going to be at a 45-degree angle this way. So if I had inner border here, it would just be a waste because it's going to get cut off. So then you put the two of them again across the middle of your quilt. So I put them up here, and I let it hang down, and I mark both of them. So I actually put a little mark on here, and I tend to just use a pen like this. It's just a Pentel Uniball that runs like crazy if it gets wet, so I know this is going to come out. Or sometimes I use my scissors and just put a little notch there. By the way, when I'm at home doing this, I don't have it mounted on the wall and doing it like this. What I do at home is I take my quilt and put it across my ironing board and do it that way because I don't want to be crawling on the floor doing this. And if my quilt is too big for my ironing board, because some of you are thinking that, what you do is you fold the quilt in half, and you take your borders that you're going to put on it, and you fold them in half, and you match up the fold of your border with the fold of your quilt, and then you can easily get the right place and still mark it. So back to I've marked these. Now how am I going to make it be mitered? So the way that Beth Ferrier taught me, you just cut it off straight with the edge of the quilt. I mentioned that already. But this time I've got to do a miter. So I still start with that place that I marked it, but then I need to cut a 45-degree angle. So I'm just gonna put these two on the mat so that they're parallel with some lines. And then I'm gonna take my ruler, and this is gonna be funny because I never get it right the first time, and I'm sure you at home are going, okay, now how do I use this? Your rulers have 45-degree lines on them, whether or not you ever used them, they're there. So I want to get this to go with this 45. Oh, I got it right away. So there's a 45-degree line on here, and the trick is to put that line on the edge of your fabric, and then you got an edge here to cut with that's the right angle. So I've got the 45-degree line on the bottom of the border here, and I've got the edge of it where my little mark was. And then all I have to do is go like that and cut it off. And then I need to go down to the other end and cut it off the opposite way from my mark. So this time I needed to go that way. So I gotta find the 45-degree line that's gonna let me do that. I said this wasn't easy. There we go. So 45-degree this way, and I'm right-handed, so it's kind of dangerous for me to try and cut this way. So what I would do is take another ruler, put it up against here, and then cut it. I don't have another ruler here. So what I'm going to do is slide this over this way, and I've got the line on the bottom, I've got the edge on my little mark, and I'm just going to go like that. So now I've got two of them done for the long sides, and I'm going to take two more borders and do the same thing for across. Put it across from here to here, mark those, come over here, cut them again, and then all you have to do is put them on your quilt, and this time you're going to stop a 1/4 inch in. It's like doing diamond stars again. So I'm going to sew this long edge on the quilt and just stop a 1/4 inch in, and I'm going to put all the sides on, stopping a 1/4 inch in, and so what you'll have is your two borders are going to be attached. Can I do this? Your two borders are going to be attached, and these are going to be flapping in the wind. And then all you have to do is put the two of them to get the two edges together and sew it. And it'll be done, and your quilt will lay flat.